Brand new series we started last week called All in the Family. And we're picking up today, and we're going to continue that series for the next few weeks. But last week we talked about a value that we all inherently understand, which is the value of a good start. And how sometimes a good start isn't even good enough. That when lives hang in the balance, only the best will do. And this entire series is about giving the best start possible to one of the most valuable things any of us have in our lives that are parents, and it's our children. And so this entire series is about what Wellspring wants to do to partner with parents to make sure our kids, your kids, and every kid in Myrtle Beach gets the best start possible on their journey towards God. And last week we talked about the importance of that. And so for the next 2 weeks, what we're going to do is we're going to break down specifically how we do that in some age-specific environments. Today, we're going to talk about the way we do that in our elementary environment, which is birth through 5th grade. Next week, we're going to talk about how we do that in our student environment, which is middle school and high school. And as I said last week, if you were here, this isn't a series about what we hope to do, what we plan to do, what we dream to do. This is a series helping explain to you what we are doing. Is to get you inspired, engaged, encouraged, and informed so that your children can be a part of it, so that you know how to invite your friends and your family and your neighbors and your coworkers to be a part of this as well. So today we're going to have an elementary emphasis. I'm going to bring out April Colquitt, who is the director of our children's ministries, and we're going to talk about it. But before we do that, I wanted you to see a video of some parents just like you talking about, again, not what we're going to do, but the value they're already getting out of Wellspring.
One of the reasons we started coming to Wellspring is really Ava. She went to a summer camp that was in a church, and she really just developed this strong love of Jesus, and we both felt like, how can we not foster this in our child?
They really enjoy being here. We flipped a couple years ago where we're not waking them up and forcing them to go to church. Like, they're getting up and like excited to go to church.
Every day she wakes up, she says, "Where am I going today?" And if we say daycare, she's disappointed. If we say that she's getting to go to church, it's Sunday, we're going to church, her face brightens up, and she's as excited as anything in the world that she gets to come to church.
The vibe and everything is real family friendly. That's like one of the big reasons why we liked it here. And with our kids loving the kids church as much, so
it makes it a lot easier for us to come here. So it's, and that's the most important thing for us, was we wanted an environment where they were comfortable and that they wanted to enjoy coming to church.
They love the excitement, they love what they're learning, they love the time that they get to spend with the group leaders, and then of course they love building relationships and being around the other kids that are here.
I think Anna's biggest thing is probably wanting to be here instead of be home on Sundays.
Oh, my daughter loves the friendships that she's made here. She enjoys the friendships, and she enjoys all the things that she does here.
My son loves to sing and dance, so he's always talking about the dancing and singing he does every time.
There's a big, humongous difference when I'm trying to force my kid to learn something or do something than when we're talking about it and having the conversation. And so Wellspring is starting that conversation for us.
Well, I know since we started coming here and they started going to Wellspring's kids a lot more, that they offer to pray now before eating. They always want to pray.
As a nightly ritual before bedtime, we all get together in the kids' bunk beds and we pray. And that really started out being super silly. Like, our son would say, "Dear God, I'm so thankful for hot dogs and chicken nuggets." Like, it was really silly. But
it's our Dear God moment.
It's our Dear God moment.
It made coming to church so much more enjoyable for them, because they were able to learn things and able to do things that they enjoyed, and that's what we really wanted. We wanted an environment comfortable for them.
I remember the first time I saw Anna, I came to pick her up because I had to go to work, and I walked in and Anna was up on the stage praying. And I remember the first time I saw that, and I was like, wow, that's what they're doing back here.
Welcome, April, to the stage.
Good morning. Thank you.
So again, April Colquitt, she is the director of Wellspring Kids. And I brought her out here today because we just thought it would be really great and really helpful for you to hear directly from the source, from the expert, about why we do this, how we do this. Last week and this week we're talking about partnering with kids, giving them a great start, prioritizing our kids. April, how do we do all this?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, first of all. And before we kind of dive in, I just want to take a quick second and appreciate that we have a pastor who lets me come up here and talk about kids ministry. He truly champions what we do in family ministry. And he has 4 families, and he is the leader in that. And so we are just so thankful to have him. And I wanted to also just say that we're parents. Most of us on staff have kids, and I have 3 children. They are headed to kindergarten, or not kindergarten, 1st grade and 5th grade and 7th grade this year. So we're right in the thick of it, and we know how hard parenting is. It's difficult, and
Yes.
most of the time we're kind of figuring it out as we go. At least that's how we feel. And we're, as we say in the world of education, like we monitor and adjust. You know, if something's not working, fix it and do something different. And that's how it feels a lot of times. And so we just want to say that we get it, and we are for families, and that we think that the best way to lead our children is for them to get to know Jesus. Life with Jesus is better, and the sooner that life with Jesus begins, the better life will be. And so our number one goal in family ministry is to partner with parents and to help them lead their children to discovering and embracing a relationship with Jesus as they grow through childhood and adolescence. And so we've developed some ways to help do that. One of the things that people may not realize if you don't know a ton about kids is that the way that a child's brain develops, before the age of 12 years old, most children have already begun to develop the way that they think and feel about who God is. And so that is why I love the verse that you pointed us to last Sunday from Proverbs 26. And it says this: start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it. You know, that verse is a promise to us as parents and as church leaders that when we start children off, when we do the work of preparing our children for a life of faith, God will do the work of prompting that faith in their heart. And so I love that verse that just reminds us that even from the earliest stages of a child's development, we can begin leading them and turning their attention towards a life of faith. And hopefully we trust that God will do that prompting in their heart.
So I think, every parent, we get it. We get why it's important. If you were here last week and today, you know even more. How do we do it? What's the plan? How do we actually start this process?
Well, parents are the number one influencer, first of all. Parents have, when you subtract the amount of time that your child spends sleeping and attending daycare or school and extracurricular activities, parents have about 3,000 hours in a year with their children, okay? So as a church, we have at the most 52 hours in a year. And for most families, we know that's really closer to like 40 hours in a year. And that's if you're attending very regularly, like 3 or 4 times a month. And so we're really talking about 3,000 hours versus 40 hours, okay? Parents have 3,000 hours, we have 40. That is the reason why our number one goal is to partner with the parents, because we will never be able to outdo the influence of a parent. We can't match that, and we can't outdo it. And so we
don't want to.
No, we don't. That's not the way God designed it. Exactly. And so that is why we are committed to doing everything that we can to help parents become more intentional in their home and more connected to this community of faith. And so we've done some research, and we've set up some principles and ways that we want to partner with parents. And if you think about parenting like an adventure, because we all know that parenting is a huge adventure, right? And you never know
That's
exactly
a nice way to describe it.
Sometimes it's messy, sometimes it's fun. It's a lot of messy.
Yes.
But if you think about it like an adventure, if you're taking a trip or any kind of journey of some sort, the first thing that you need to do to be successful in that trip is to map it. And so we are helping parents to map it in the journey and the adventure of parenting. And I know that if you've traveled this summer, we've traveled a little bit with our kids, and if you want to be successful, and maybe you've learned this as a lesson in your own family, that you start out by mapping out a plan for what you're going to do on those trips and on those vacations, right? You guys do this. What do y'all do?
Oh, it's a lot.
I know it is.
Yeah, I use Excel spreadsheets.
But not everybody thinks like you do.
They should.
Trey is an amateur travel agent.
For my family, not other families. No, I'll tell you what we did, but I'm not planning your trip for you. But no, I love. It's really a habit. I mean, it's a hobby of mine. It's a way I relax. I love to research new locations. I love to plan trips. And what we found as a family is the more we've planned it out, and the clearer plan we have for the trip, the more successful it is. We took our 3 kids to New York City this summer, and if I had taken them to Times Square and then said, "All right, boys, now what do you want to do?" Like, it would have been a disaster, and we would have ruined our trip. And so it was so much better for us, and everything went better because we knew going in what we were going to do. We knew what we were going to avoid. We knew where we were going to go. And for us, the whole idea of mapping it for parents is the same thing. We want to help you make some decisions before you need to make the decision.
Yeah.
We want to help you having thought it through, knowing the best thing, knowing what to avoid. Like, we want to partner with you in that because it's going to make the journey much more painless, not painless, but more painless. They're still teenagers.
Right.
There'll still be some pain, but
Always.
but help avoid some things and be more successful.
Yeah. So we have kind of identified, and like Trey said earlier, these are things that we're already doing as a church, and we just want to help parents understand what we're doing so that you can partner with us in a more defined, intentional way, okay? So the very first thing that we do to partner with parents is we help parents to meet other influencers of faith. We have done some research and looked at what happens when young adults leave the nest and they graduate from college or from high school and they go off to college and into early adulthood in their careers. The number one factor in keeping those young people connected to a life of faith and continuing in their relationship with Jesus is the number of people who are influencing them in their childhood and their adolescent years. So the more people that were influencing their faith and helping point them towards Jesus, the more likely that those young people were to continue growing in a relationship with Jesus. In fact, about 75%, 3 out of 4, say that they had at least 5 or more adults other than their parents who were championing their faith, who knew them personally, who were pointing them towards the truth of God's word, and who were encouraging them to grow in their relationship with God.
And as a parent, you know there's going to be adults in your life, in your kids' lives. There's going to be teachers. There's going to be coaches. There's going to be, your friends, parent. Like,
right.
They are influencing your kids. We just want to make sure they're influencing them in the right ways, and that they're influencing them with the right things.
Yeah, and if you know that your children are automatically going to be influenced by other adults, other voices, you want to make sure that they're the right voices. And so you could go out and try to recruit some of those right voices on your own, but what we want parents and families to understand is that we've already done the work of that recruiting for you. And we already have people who are voluntarily willing to show up in your kid's life on a consistent basis and to champion their faith and to point them towards Jesus, and those people are our family ministry volunteers. It's our leaders and tribe leaders and circle leaders and nursery workers who hold babies and who love on them on a weekly basis that are pointing them towards Jesus.
Now, I don't want you to miss what she just said. She said a weekly basis because the vast majority of our volunteers serve every week, which means your kid, your child is going to have the same leader and be able to develop a relationship with them every single time they come back.
Yeah, exactly. I would say probably 90% of our volunteers serve on a weekly basis in family ministry. So that includes birth through high school. And we value those relationships so much that we encourage our volunteers to serve as often as they can. Now, keep in mind, they're humans. They're not superheroes. Sometimes they show up and dress like superheroes, but they are humans. They get sick sometimes and they take vacations and they need breaks too. But the majority of them are here very, very regularly, as often as possible. And the reason that is because the more consistent they are in building those relationships with your kids, the more consistent you are in being here so that they can build those relationships, the more trust there's going to be involved. And so when kids can walk through the door of our environment and they see the faces that they know and love, they get excited to be here and they feel comfortable. And when they are comfortable and they feel like they're in a safe place, then they're going to be more receptive to truth being spoken into their lives and to allowing us to lead them and teach them things.
Yeah, every parent in this room has experienced you've said something to your child 5,000 times, and then another adult says it once, and they're like, "You're the smartest adult in the world." You know, it just is what it is. And so what we want to do is we want to equip those adults to be able to do that. And so when it happens, you don't pull your hair out. You say thank you for helping them with that.
Yeah, and you trust that they're people that are pointing your kids towards Jesus. So that's the first thing that we do is help parents meet other influencers of their faith. And then another thing that we do is we add shared experiences for warmth. Now, let me explain what I mean by that, because that might sound kind of strange. But when I say warmth, we're really talking about closeness and connection among families. And research shows that families who have a strong sense of warmth in their home are more likely to pass down their faith to their children and their grandchildren. They're going to be more successful if they are a close-knit family. And so we try to do things intentionally on purpose to help families build those experiences for warmth and to add those to their life. We do things around here like, you know, bounce houses in the lobby, or jousting and push-up contests and obstacle courses down the hallway, and kids celebrate and kid takeover and beach baptism as a family event. We did the dunk tank. That was my kid's favorite thing that we did here at Wellspring.
Oh, we have a picture.
This summer. Yeah, so there's me in the dunk tank. My kids had thought this was the greatest thing ever because they got to dunk me in that tank, and they did it over and over and over again. And there's some other pictures where it is literally like joy on their faces that they're getting to dunk me in that tank. But we went home and we talked about that for days after, and we laughed about it. And that is what we're trying to do, is to create experiences that families leave here having done something together as a family that they go home talking about and laughing about for days afterwards.
Right. There's value when you go home and into the next week. It's like, do you remember when we did the jousting thing?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Because it's like April saying, it just creates warmth, that creates closeness, that creates a safer space in your family to pass down these truths that you want. And you may not have the time, the energy, the expertise to create those. And so we as your church want to help create them for you.
Right.
And so it's why we do silly things. It's why we decorate the lobby. It's why we do duck tanks. It's why we do all that stuff. It's not just for fun.
No.
It's because we know there is tremendous value to that fun in pointing your child towards Jesus. Which actually leads me to my next question. Because, you know, you're a parent, I'm a parent, many parents in the room, we want to do all this. I want to do all this.
Yes.
They want to do all this, but we have jobs.
Yeah.
We have lives. Some of our kids play sports.
Yeah.
Some of our kids play travel sports, which means we have no life.
Right.
How can the church help in that? How can we help make these opportunities even better and easier? Like, what would you say to parents who struggle finding time to do this kind of stuff?
Well, one of the things that we do to partner with parents is to help parents prioritize time together. And when you prioritize, it's really about when you prioritize time, because like Trey said, you know you're supposed to be doing these things. You don't need us to tell you that you need to make family time and time with your kids a priority. That's obvious. And in fact, a lot of parents, we feel guilt already that we don't do it enough. And so our intention is not to make parents feel like, oh, you've got one more thing to do or you need to spend more time with your kids. It's really to help you know when to prioritize that time, because when you stop and think about it, you know that there are already moments in your day that you're spending with your kids anyways. When they wake up in the morning and you're all in the same house, when you're sitting down to eat, when you're riding in the car, running errands, or taking them to school, when you are putting them to bed at night, those evening hours, you're already with them anyways. And so we want to teach parents and partner with them to help them prioritize those moments and to leverage the everyday moments of your life to be more intentional and to make the greatest impact. And so we have some tools and some ways that we do that. Every parent knows that time flies, right? You probably have heard it said that the days are long, but the years are short. We know that. But when you really stop to think about it, there are 936 weeks from the time a child is born until they graduate from high school. 936. And so we want to help parents use that time wisely. So we have tools like our social media pages, our Wellspring Kids Facebook and Instagram pages, where we will put on there what your child is learning in our kids' environments this week. And then we'll take it another step and we'll say, hey, not only are they learning about wisdom, not only are they learning that they're made in God's image, but here's something you can do with them at mealtime today. Here's a conversation starter. Ask this question. Or we'll say, at bath time tonight with your preschooler, say, hey, God made your head, God made your feet, God made your arms. You are wonderfully made by God. And so we're giving parents cues and clues of exactly what to say and times that they can say it.
Yeah, it's practical prompting because they've learned, and there's ways you can put this into stuff you're already doing. And another way that we're actually rolling out today, but some of the staff have been testing beforehand. There's an app. You won't believe it. There's an app for this.
There's an app for that.
It's literally called the Parent Cue app. And I've been using it for about a month or two. And explain it. It's remarkable.
Yeah, so Parent Cue is a free app that you can download on your phone. Doesn't matter what kind of phone you have. And basically, it helps you count down the weeks to when your child is going to launch and leave the house. And it's not to make you feel pressured or to make you feel sad. It is meant to make you be intentional as you see how much time you have left. And it gives you some very easy, very practical, as Trey said, ways that you can use that time. So check this out real quick.
From the day your child is born to the day they graduate, you have 936 weeks. 936 weeks of soccer practice and homework, and teaching them to use deodorant. 936 weeks to instill values, to build character, and to prepare them to face the world. You want to be a great parent, and we're here to help with each moment of parenting gold. Driving your 4th grader to practice, saying goodbye to your 10th grader as he's walking out the door, eating tacos in the kitchen with your 7th grader, tucking your toddler in at night. These moments happen every week, and we want you to be aware of the time you have left, because when you are, you do more with the time you have now. We cue you with easy, just-in-time ideas of things to say, things to do, and things to think about to connect with the heart of your child. Our cues are grounded in God's big story, so your child can discover the power of faith in those everyday moments of life. Every cue fits the context of your child's developmental phase. We cue you when your high schooler won't leave their room, your middle schooler won't pick up their clothes, your 2-year-old won't stop talking. We help you understand these moments, and we help you connect. You only have 936 weeks. You can't afford to waste them. Parent Cue. It's what we do. Download it for free today.
So let me tell you about this app. You download it for free, and you simply just put in your child's name, their birth date, and it automatically calculates how long you have until they graduate. It knows the grade they're in, and so every week, and this is the thing I love about it, it's not unrealistic. It's not like it's prompting you to do something every day. It's not beating you up, making you feel guilty because you're not talking about Jesus 7 days a week. Like once a week, it gives you a new prompt for the week for each child. Here's what they're going through. Here's their phase. Here's what research says could do. Here's what God would say about it. Here's a practical way to have a conversation this week when you're in the car, whatever. And it's just in your pocket, and it's fantastic. And April's going to talk about this. Because you go to a Wellspring church, you can actually tell the Parent Cue app you go to our church, and it syncs up with our church and everything we're teaching every week.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing about it because it is directly linked to what our kids are learning in Wellspring Kids and in Wellspring Preschool. And so, I lead our Wellspring Kids program, and sometimes from one day to the next, I can't remember what we're learning because life is busy, just like you are, and there's a lot of stuff in my head, and I'm doing 1,000 different things, and so I might, by Monday night, I've forgotten what their lesson was on Sunday, even if I was in there teaching it. It's like, what did we just talk about yesterday? And so I will pull up that app, and we can watch a video together, or I can just watch it on my own and be like, oh, yeah, that's what we talked about. And then I can have a conversation with them that night while I'm putting them to bed. So it's so practical. And what I find is that parents want to talk to their kids. You want to talk to your kids about things of faith at home, and you want to talk to them about God, and you want to lead them spiritually. But oftentimes, you just don't feel like you know how to do that or how to start the conversation. Depending on your background and how you grew up, it might just feel awkward even. And so this is just meant to take some of the guesswork out of it and the thinking out of it, and it just tells you exactly what to do. It's so easy.
Yeah, it's really remarkable. You should download it. and start using it because it's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to meet other influencers of faith, which is really important. You want to make sure you have rock solid adults in their lives, point them to Jesus. We're going to add shared experiences for warmth. That sounds like we're all cold and we need to warm up. We're going to prioritize time together. What's next?
The other thing that we help parents do is to identify what's unique about their child. I have been teaching kids for a long time now, and a lot of our family ministry volunteers are teachers or have worked with kids in ministry for a long time. But we recognize that not every parent is experienced with children. There is no prerequisite for having children as far as how much experience you have to have before you have one. So there are parents who have children that really feel very clueless and don't know what to do, or they see something happening with their kid and they don't know if it's normal or not normal or what. And so we want to help with that.
She's talking about me.
You're not the only one. But we just want to help parents be able to identify what's going on with their child. And so we actually have a parent resource wall out in our hallway. If you haven't had a chance to check that out yet, I want to encourage you to do that, because there are books like this one right here. These books that you see, they're yellow and green, and I think they're blue and red. They are categorized by phases through preschool and elementary and middle school and high school. They will tell you exactly what's going on with your kid at this age and phase of their development, and that's very, very helpful. There's a lot of other stuff out there, too, that you can check out, Bibles that we recommend, and just books that help you talk to your kids about lots of different things. But sometimes as parents, we forget that our kids are made in the image of God. And we get so focused on working with them on what's not right or what's not going well in every phase that we forget or we neglect to see the things that are right in those phases. And so going back to meeting other influencers of faith, that's something that our family ministry volunteers and leaders can help parents with, is pointing to them and saying, hey, something seemed a little off today with him. Can we help you with anything? Did you guys have a rough morning before you got here? But we can only know those things if you're here consistently and we know your family. Another thing that we'll do is, this has happened back in Wellspring Kids before. We'll have a kid that has been coming for a while and they're really shy and maybe they don't want to play a game or they don't want to get up and dance. And suddenly one day they'll come out of their shell, and they will. And we get so excited, and we want to be able to celebrate those milestones with parents. Say, hey, she came out of her shell today and she played a game. You know, we can identify those things about kids and point parents to what's unique. I have loved watching our kids grow up into student ministry and start serving. And for us to be able to say, hey, we want you to know they're so great with kids, or they're very good at dancing and leading worship, or they just have a knack for running that computer back there. There's little things like that that we can help parents identify and point you to the wins in your child's life.
And this resource wall, too, just to kind of piggyback, one of the things we want to do is, again, we assume you want the best for your children. We assume you want to research. We assume that if you had all the time in the world, you would spend weeks Googling the best books on parenting and the best books about how to talk about sex with your kids. Mm-hmm. And you would do all that, but you don't have the time. So because we love you, we're going to do it for you.
Yeah.
And that's what this resource wall is we want to, it's going to be updated, and we want to curate the best resources that we are available, that we know about, and that people we trust have said, to try to take the guesswork out of it for you, to help equip you to win in really what the goal is pointing our kids towards Jesus.
Yeah, and there's some free resources here that are like a take one kind of thing that you can take, and those are updated regularly with what we're learning as a church or what your kids are learning. And then we point you to where you can go and find some of these other things. So check that out. And then the last thing that we do to partner with parents is we help parents know how to talk about faith at home. And as I said earlier, a lot of parents want to do this. They're just not sure how. And so what we believe is that if you are doing these other 4 things, meeting other adults who can influence your child's faith, if you're adding those shared experiences for warmth, if you're prioritizing time and leveraging those moments and making the most of them with your kids, if you're identifying what's unique and you're getting to know what sparks your child, what's unique about them, then talk about faith is going to come so naturally. It's just going to happen organically as you're having those conversations going to bed at night, or as you're sitting down as a mealtime as a family, or you're riding in the car. Those kind of things are just going to come up naturally in conversation, and it's not going to feel so weird, when you have those. It's not going to feel forced, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, just in my life, I've had the privilege of leading all three of my kids to Jesus. And I know you're thinking, well, you're the pastor, so, yeah, but I'm not really good with kids, so it kind of balances out. But no, all three of my children are Christians now, and I've baptized them, but none of them became Christians like out of a church event.
Yeah.
All three of them came up to me or their mom. David asked his mom, but John and Jacob both asked me directly. John's my middle son. I was driving him to school one day, just like every other day. And that day, I think we had just done a beach baptism or something, and we were kind of talking about it. And he was sitting in the back, and he goes, "Hey, Dad, when can I get baptized?" And that just began a conversation. My wife, who is amazing at planning these family warmth things, she's the best at it. And so we were having a family meal one night, and she'll put these little questions in the middle, and we'll draw a question and talk about it. And one of the questions was like, if you could have 3 wishes, what would they be? And we all went around, and Jacob, my youngest, goes, "I would wish to be a Christian." And we were like, well, we can handle that right now, dog. Like, we don't need a genie for that one. And so it was just conversation, And I'll tell you that because, again, it's super easy in that moment to hear that and think, well, of course you can do that. You're the pastor. Of course you can do that. You went to seminary. Of course you – no. I was privileged to get to do that as a father. And as a father who wanted to point my child towards Jesus. And what we want to do is we want to create a place that equips you and prepares you so that you can have that moment with your child. So that you can have that moment. So when the question comes, your heart is going to beat out of your chest. Again, I went to seminary and my heart still was beating out of my chest. Yeah. But I was equipped. And we want you to be equipped. We want you to be prepared so that you can have that moment with your child. You are the spiritual leader in your family, not us.
Yeah.
Our job is to make your job as easy as possible. That's our job, to equip you so that you are so ready, so prepared. And so we're doing beach baptism in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things when we do beach baptism is if we baptize a child. This has happened a few times, and a parent has asked me, hey, can I? And they always ask kind of weird, like, can I baptize my son? Can I? We're always like, yes, of course you can, because again, you're their spiritual leader.
Yes.
If that is it, well, we celebrate that, we high five it. And so parents, that's what we want to do. That's what we're up here for, is we just want to provide every resource and every opportunity possible for you to experience that moment. And not even just that one moment, a lifetime of walking with your children and pointing them towards Jesus and teaching them what it means to be a passionate follower of Him.
Right. And what Trey's saying is that parents are the spiritual leader. And we believe that's God's design for your family, and that God has commanded parents to lead their children spiritually. And so, like he said, we want to equip them. One thing that we do is we have something called Kid Faith. And Kid Faith is a class that we do for kids who are asking questions about following God, who are maybe wanting to be baptized. And we understand that some parents may not feel at home how to have that conversation. They may not know what to say. And so we have Kid Faith. And we invite parents to come with their children to Kid Faith, where we talk about how they can become a part of God's family, what it means to become a Christ follower, and why we choose to be baptized. And it's a conversation that we help start and get going, and then we send parents home with this right here, which has a homework piece inside and on the back, where you can go home and continue that conversation at home as the parent, more equipped. And we are so careful that we try to put that in the hands of the parent to do. We will whisper the answers into your ear. We will talk with you on the side about it. Ask us anything. I will love to help you. Our leaders would love to help you, but we want to put the answers in the hands of you as mom and dad or guardian over your child's life and be able to lead them in that way.
Absolutely. So to kind of wrap up, a lot of great information. Parents, this can be a little overload.
Yeah.
Information overload. So what would you say to the parents in the room? What can they begin doing right now to be a part of this process?
Yeah, well, we don't want you to leave here feeling overwhelmed. Again, these are things we're already doing. If you will just be here regularly, as often as you can, be here so that we can get to know you, so that we can get to know your children, then we're going to be able to partner with you so much more effectively and make the greatest impact. As I said earlier, we believe it's that partnership between parents and the church that will make the greatest impact on the life of a child. And then the other things that you can do are just engage with us, follow us on social media, so that you see what your kids are learning. You can stay up to date on things that we're doing when we have Kid Faith or when we're having Kids Celebrate, or ways that you can have conversations at home. We post blog post articles all the time that are great tools and resources for you to just go read a quick 3-minute read, things like that. And then also get to know your kids' leaders. You know, when you see those blue shirts walking around here, get to know them, introduce yourself when you go pick up your children, because those are the people who are spending an hour a week with your children, and they love them, and they're passionate about partnering with you. They're passionate about getting to know your kid, and so we just encourage you to do as much as you can. And tonight, come to Kids Celebrate. That's a family experience for warmth that you can add right now tonight, and I guarantee you your kids are going to go home talking about it for probably the next month. It's going to be so fun.
Awesome. April, thank you very much. Will you help me thank April? So, again, you can see we're not playing around. We take this so seriously. We take this responsibility seriously. We take your desire for your children to have the best life possible seriously. We're working as hard as we can. And I hope today you're just a little more informed, encouraged, inspired to be a part of what we do here. If you have friends or family or neighbors and coworkers who need to hear this information, I'm just going to ask you to spread it. Get them here so that they can be a part of what God's doing to prepare our kids. Remember, we said start them off on the way they should go. And when they are old, they will not turn from it. I think it's so cool that we're emphasizing to start them off on the way they should go. Sounds like we need a map, right? And the very thing we need is the thing our children's environments have decided. They are going to map it. They are literally going to provide a map for parents, for families. And we're going to walk with you to say, hey, this is how we do this. And so, again, hope you're encouraged. Hope you'll come back tonight to be a part of this. We're going to sing one more song, and then we're going to be dismissed for the day. Next Sunday, we are going to highlight our student environment. So if you have a student, if you know a student, if you know a family of students, do whatever it takes for them to be here next week, because we are just as passionate about students as we are kids. And what we're doing is just as excellent and just as well thought out. And so I'm really excited about that. When we're done today, our prayer team's going to be down front like they are every single week. And if you would just like to take a moment to pray with your kids, to pray for your kids, to pray for our children's ministry, to pray for some wisdom or some direction in your life, that's what they're here for. They would love to talk with you because, as I said last week, every one of us in this room has a role to play in this story. Every one of us that calls Wellspring home has a role to play in investing in the next generation. Even if you've got babies, if you've got no babies, if you're sending your kids off to college, if they've gone to college, you've got grandkids that have gone to college. We all have a role to play in this story. So keep asking yourself, okay, what can you do? How can you help make sure every child in Myrtle Beach gets the best start possible on their journey towards Jesus? That's why we do what we do. So I'm going to pray. I'm going to pray for us, and then we'll sing, and then you'll be dismissed. And I hope to see you back here tonight at 6 o'clock for Kids Celebrate. God, we just love you so much. We thank you for just the privilege we have of coming to this place to celebrate you, to learn about you, to become more like you. God, I just thank you for your passion for children and your passion for students. I thank you that you are the driver of all this, that you fill us with ideas, you fill us with desires, and you fill us with all these things. None of these are ours. They're all from you. And we thank you for it, and we're going to do everything in our power to point everything back to you as well. Father, be with us today as we partner with these parents, as we partner with people who love children, and doing everything we can to give them the best start possible as they launch towards you. We love you, and it's in your Son's name we pray. Amen.